Were you told you were shy? Do you identify as shy? Do you hate that word now? Do you just wish you could get over it and get on with your life? Welcome to Shining Beyond Shy, empowering you to create a greater life than you ever thought was possible. With your Shining Beyond Shy host, Fiona Cups. So hi everyone, it's Fiona Cups here, your host for Shining Beyond Shy, and I'm really excited to be with you this week. I actually have a guest. I often don't have a guest, but this week I'm here with Indra Rinzler, who's in the north of California. And so Indra, you're an astrologer and a spiritual guide. And you actually wrote to me and said, oh, I think I have something that I can share with your audience, because I believe you also have a story of overcoming shyness. Is that right?
Yes, definitely. About public speaking, I was hesitant to public speak for many, many, many decades. I may still be hesitant, but at this point, I have led 96 classes. Not that I was counting or anything. Classes and workshops over about a 6 or 7 year period, and uh, it was a really important bridge to cross for me.
Yeah.
To be able to do those classes.
So that's really interesting. So you say decades.
And sure.
And I mean, I say that's interesting because it's very similar for me. For me, it was decades. It's like I didn't think that I could get over the shyness. It's like I got to the point in my life where I just kind of thought I had to live with it. So can you tell us something about that? Because I think there are people listening here who've got to the point where they think they can't change it. So how was that for you, having had something for decades? And then what prompted you to know that it was time to change it?
Well, I think that I think it's a time. It's about a time when it's the time. It's not about time. It's about the time. That it's a time when you want to. I was reading a book yesterday about I can't versus I won't, and that we have to learn that it's more that I won't rather than I can't. That we spend a while thinking we can't, but then when we let that go, then we're dealing with our own unwillingness, and with our own unwillingness, then we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity. It's a little bit more energy. I won't versus I can't, and as we get more energy, then we have an ability. We have an inner ability to be able to deal with the situation. So I like to say that for the public speaking, I realized there was 3 parts of the public speaking. There was the preparation before, and that I hated. There was the during, which had a grace that was okay, and in fact you could even kind of enjoy it as you kind of got into it. And then there was the after, which was wonderful.
Oh,
so what I wanted to do was I wanted to try to bring that intellectually I could understand that I could have that after feeling before. That the idea was that I wanted to get rid of the before jitters, lack of a better word. It was much more than jitters, but the pain, the doubting, the unsurety, the difficulties of it, and realize that that when I got into enjoyment with it, the before, I could feel like it was the after. I could feel the same feelings of the after. And I remember, I tell this story quite a few times, that I remember, maybe within my first 10 classes, that there was an experience that I had. So I was going to give a talk at a bookstore that I had done before. And I remember sitting there 2 or 3 days before, which is my, that's the critical zone for me. It may not be the same for everybody, but for me, that it's that way. And I thought, well, no one's going to come. And I thought, oh, well, I'll be there. And then I thought, well, nobody will like it. And then I thought, oh, well, I'll like it. And then I could release the doubting, which is my particular story of that I go to the doubting part of it, and then with that assurance, with that feeling of wholeness, then I could go into it. But it's really interesting, and it may not be the same for everybody, but like when it's the day and it's the hour before, that isn't so much the concern. You're kind of in the flow then, and it's like, okay, suck it up, it's showtime, and it's just kind of interesting that we have these levels. It's sort of like levels of grief, huh? The levels of despair that you go through. And for me, it's that 2 or 3 days before, I don't want to do it. What have I done? I've committed myself, and now I'm stuck, and not wanting to, in that moment, not being big enough, feeling at that moment that I'm not big enough to be able to hold it. And that being a story that may have some truth, but it's not the complete truth.
I love the way that you've evoked, for all of us who either fear public speaking or have done, it's like you've evoked all those feelings that can come up, as you say, in the run-up. And for me, I have to say, it used to be that I would be petrified in the hour beforehand. So I didn't have that kind of grace period that you describe. But there are a couple of things I just wanted to pull out, which are kind of similar to some of the things that I talk about, and I'd just like to hear a little bit more about them. So you talked about the difference between I can't give a talk versus I won't give a talk. And I just find that so interesting, because I mean, in the way that I sometimes talk about it is, oh, shyness is a choice. And we tend to think that it's something that's predetermined and we can't change. And my mind is all over the place. So I'm going to skip to adding in another part of the question, because of course you're an astrologer. So, and I may be naive about astrology, but sometimes the point of view that can come into people's heads with astrology is that you're reading the stars and it's all fixed. So all of that is, there's lots of different elements in there. But basically, can you say something about how, I guess, you think that shyness can be changed? It's not predetermined. Can you say something a bit more about that?
Well, I like to give the example that there are people who, if you say you need to sing a song in front of 200 people, but you can't practice it, and they say, their response is, why are there only 200 people there? But these same people, they may be in front of one person and have trouble saying, I love you. And so the thing is that we can be shy about some things, but there's other things that we may not be shy about. For example, you may be, you may have been shy in that group setting, but maybe in an intimate setting, you don't have that shyness, and you don't, maybe you had it, but then you let go of that. I'm not saying you in particular, but the thing is that there are some things that we are reticent in, and then there are other things that somebody might say, well, I would think that you wouldn't do this, and they say, oh no, I'm happy to be in my bikini down at the beach, let them look, what do I care? It's like, so we're inconsistent, and so we have to realize that there's other things going on. No, we're not fixed in our astrology. I don't like that idea at all. There are challenges, and there are challenges that will be with us for a long time. And so the thing is that our astrology is based on our personality. It's not who we really are. Our personality isn't who we really are. It's who we think we are. And so when we identify with, a lot of shyness and a lot of insecurities come from a weak sun, a weakly placed sun. It's not that the anything wrong with the sun. It's just that it's in a position, whether it's cuspy on the edge, or whether it's with a few other stronger planets that make it feel inferior. The fact is that there are some sun, around sun is where, or Mercury is around. A weak Mercury would be a place where shyness and insecurities about communication would come in. And I have, a little bit of problem with both of those. So the thing is it's not who we are, it's who we think we are. And then as we get different periods, if we go into a sun period, then our sun gets stronger, and then we do things that we didn't think we could. And then as we grow and we see people around us, we see other people talking, and we think, that doesn't look so hard. They make it look so easy. Let me give it a try. And it can be baby steps. It can be a gradual to where you get to, but that doesn't really matter. It doesn't label us a certain way. It doesn't box us a certain way. We're complex. We're not simple creatures that, again, we can be really excited about this, and very unexcited about that. I bring you flowers, and and they're red roses, and you're very happy, and then I get this idea, yellow roses, and you go, yellow roses, what's wrong with you? But they're roses, and I'm giving them to you. So we're complex people. And so the idea is that when we what's coming to me right now is that we need to realize that we have power. I was going to say control, but there is no such thing as control. So we have power, and that it's our choice, and that those are things that we feel, that we're hesitant to talk in front of people. Those are real, but they don't have to be lasting.
And is that, because actually that was another, I've got, as you're talking, it's like I've got bing, bing, bing in my head of questions, but that was the other thing I was going to go to, that a few minutes ago, you talked about the story. So is that kind of what you mean, that we have a story of not being able to do it, and as long as we believe the story, we can't do it? But actually it's not real, it's just an idea we have about ourselves.
Yes, it's something that goes in the mind, that our mother says, good girls don't, and so, or good boys don't, and so then we don't, or we do, and then blondes have more fun, and I'm not having more fun, so what's wrong with me? Or I need to be taller, or I need to be shorter, and I need to, I'm if I wear red, I'm too visible, and if I wear gray, then I feel more comfortable because nobody can see me. And these are all stories that it's the conditioning that we get, that we pick up. And like a flu bug, we pick it up, and until we're ready to let it go, it's there controlling us. It's there. Yes, but I want, but yes, but, and until we're ready to get strong enough to say, I don't want to do any more buts. I'm tired of that but, I'll keep my other buts, but this but I'm done with. And the better story is no story. There is no better story. The better story is still story. And while we can make a better life by living in a more relaxed place, or by having the career we've chosen, or by having a wonderful mate, or by having a bigger TV, there's still stories. And the perfect mate, we're still going to blame them because they're too perfect, because they're always on time, because they always know the right thing to say, or they're never flustered, or they're and we're going to find fault with that. They're too beautiful, they're too easygoing, it's a story, and there's no peace in story.
Yeah.
The only peace is letting go of the stories.
Okay, so there's something, and I love all of this that you're saying. Something else I want to pick up on when you said it can be about baby steps. And I wonder if you can say more about that, because I see, I mean, I work with people who are shy, and anything from somebody who literally can't go out of the house because they feel so shy and so overwhelmed, to somebody who just has a problem in one part of their life, everything else is working, and they're really looking at changing one thing and creating a greater life in a way. So people all along the spectrum of shyness. And I'd love to hear more about this thing of baby steps. How is that?
Well, I think that the again, like the inner critic is always critiquing. And so we could have the story of that we need to do it all at once. We need to pull the Band-Aid off all at once, it doesn't hurt as much, or that we need to, it was only a talk in front of 5 people, so that isn't really a talk. And those are craziness. So I wouldn't listen to any of that. And the judgments, the inside judgments, the inner critic can be relentless. And so baby steps are okay, that if it's only 5 people and that we wrote the whole thing out and we read it, and that's okay, it's still a baby step. If that's what you need, if that's how it manifests, that's okay. Who is saying that that's not okay? Who is saying that it's not okay is some inner scale. And sometimes I say to people, you have a lot of scales there. You have bought all the scales of the world. You've got little scales, and you've got big scales, and let them go. That stop judging everything, that you're putting everything that you do on a this versus this, and let the verses go. It's just this. There was 5 people and I read it and I felt really good afterwards, and that's a success. And if you don't feel that that's enough, then don't read it next time. But don't belittle what you've achieved, because there's no joy in that.
There certainly is no joy in belittling what you've achieved, that's for sure. And I love that. And I think you said something about pulling the whole Band-Aid off at once. And one of the things that I sometimes talk about is this thing of where people say, oh, feel the fear and do it anyway. And it's like, I know for me, when I was really shy, I did sometimes push myself to just do things anyway. And often it didn't work out because I was trying to jump too far ahead. And so it was much more relevant for me at the beginning to, like you say, give a small talk. Or even, I remember the first time that I was at a party with other people in the room and I felt comfortable with people actually looking at me. I mean, that was the first step for me, nothing to do with giving a talk, actually just being in a room and, I can say, not dying, not that I died, but not feeling like I was going to die. That was one of the first steps for me. And this thing of feel the fear and do it anyway, it would have totally overwhelmed me and pushed me, as you say, into the judgment. And so, yeah, I love the idea of baby steps. And I also love what you say about not judging wherever we are. And this is one of the things that I saw with me. As I started to let go of shyness, I became so happy with myself for letting go of shyness that any time any hint of shyness came into my world, I was so hard on myself. It's like I judged shyness more than ever before because I was kind of telling the world I was out of it. And of course, as you said, there are places where I was still shy. I mean, there are many things that I changed, but there are many places where it would still show up for me and still sometimes can. But nowadays, I'm just like, oh, okay. So I was shy in that situation, and to not have that judgment around it is such a relief. And of course, to the extent that we have judgment around stuff, we can't then move forward and create more with our lives.
So these people that are saying, jump right into the middle of there's alligators in the pond, just jump into them, they'll leave you alone. So you need to tell them that they need to be not seen, that they need to go into their room and not leave it for a week or two, and they need to go to the opposite side. They need to be, because the jumping into the pond that's they can do, but not being anywhere near the pond, not being seen, being alone, having nobody to appreciate what they do for a week or two. See how they would do with that. Is that they can say that your problem, oh, that's not a problem, that's easy to do, but what about the things that you're good at? How good are they at that? That's their challenge.
That's so interesting that you say that, because one of the classes that I facilitate, it's called Right Voice for You, and it's often for people who are performers, but as you know, I specialize in people who have problems speaking, who are shy. And one of the things we talk about is that we have the people who are really shy and really don't want to be on the stage, but then we have those who want to come up on stage, be up on stage all the time, want to be in the limelight. And actually, really, the purpose of this is to be okay with everything. It's to be okay with being on stage, giving your talk, but it's also okay to allow someone else to have the limelight, to be in the audience for a bit. So it's really
yes. How do they do with the bit part where they're just in the crowd and don't stand out? That's their challenge.
Yes.
Everybody has challenges. They may not be obvious. They may not be, they're not showing them, but they also have challenges, and it can be to tone down. It can be a challenge to tone themselves down, to be within themselves, to let opportunities go is their challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
None are any better or any easier. There's no award for the most number of challenges. Maybe there is. I don't know what it is. There's no.
I don't want to find out at this point. I'm not going to contend for that one.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just coming to peace with whatever your series of abilities and inabilities and challenges are. They're color coded for you, for us individually, and there's a purpose behind them. I can't tell you what the purpose is. I can make up something what the purpose is, but I don't really know what the purpose is. And so the idea is to live in the moment, where things just are, without any past or future or need to be any different, that they just are what they are. And if I'm comfortable doing it or not comfortable, I'm still human. I'm still a loving person. I'm still trying to be conscious. I'm still caring about, having compassion for the world and for what's going on. But I don't have to be in it in order to have that compassion, because in it, I'm not. I'm too stuck in the mud to be able to be clear.
Yeah, I love the way you talk about that. And I also want to jump back to something else that you said when you were talking about, well, we all have our challenges. And I just want to call out, because I know that for some shy people, and it was like this for me, that I thought that shyness was the worst thing in the world. And I think probably everybody can be like this with whatever their limitation set is. They think that it's the worst. But more recently, I've finally begun to see that, even because I guess the thing for shy people is often we can't hide the shyness, whereas it appears that other people can go through life really confidently and everything appears fine. But actually, they're often just good at making it appear fine. They have, as you say, their own challenges going on. And I love the way you talk about that. It's like coming to peace with, okay, this is me. So this is me, Fiona. I've had this shyness journey. Actually, I probably still continue to have it. and how much love for me can I have with that? How much space can I be around that? And from that space, it can, well, it's so much easier when we're not making ourselves wrong for whatever our particular journey is. So I really thank you for, for highlighting that. I love that.
Yes, I have clients that have very challenging charts, and so what I came to with them is the feeling that the purpose of the challenges is that when we overcome them, then we can teach other people about those challenges. And in fact, isn't that what you have done? Is that you have made a career without your quote unquote shyness. Not saying,
That's,
that you're shy. I'm saying you're the shyness story. Without that, then you wouldn't have had the satisfying, I assume, a satisfying career that you've had and the success story. And so, uh, I don't know. I'm just getting this image of you sit down with a little girl and the little girl is shy and you start the story. I was shy once, and it becomes this blooming flowery bush of I was shy once story, and it became a success story. And it's not that I was shy once isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of the story, and then it's what you do with it. And so this is the dense plane, is that we can't, on an ethereal plane, I can imagine is that there isn't, if God says let go of your shyness, and you're trying to grasp onto your shyness as an ethereal being, and it's a little hard. But down here on this physical plane, in this dense world, it's really easy. And the value of the denseness is that it becomes so palpable that we can really feel it. And in that feeling, we get the motivation is that it's not that I can't, it's that I won't. And in that unwillingness, then I can open up to the ideas of that, well, I can do baby steps. I can go to the party and I can be seen, and then I can go to the party and I can wear a louder color. Maybe just on top or just on bottom, or maybe just the shoes, or the hair tie. It's okay, whatever it is. It's baby steps. It doesn't really matter. There's the only one that's grading it is your inside. I mean, other people may be grading it, but that's on them. That's not about you. And so you gotta you gotta be an easy grader. You have to be you have to let go of we have to let go of being so hard on ourselves, because it's there's no point in there's no point you can say, oh, I'm 20 years old and I'm still doing this, or I'm 25 years old, or I'm 30, or I'm 40, or I'm 50, 60, or 70. It doesn't really matter. That you can say it at any age, and it the weight of that statement is something that's internal, that we put on it.
Yeah. Thank you. And can I ask you something more general about astrology, because it actually surprised me.
Sure.
What you just said. I mean, I don't it's not something that I know a great deal about, hence my comment at the beginning. And actually, I already knew about you, that you weren't somebody who saw the chart as fixed. So I actually knew that. But I'm interested in what you said. Some people have heavier charts than others. Can you, I don't think I really knew that. Can you say anything more about that?
Well, I don't think I used the word heavier, but I said that some people have more challenges than other people. Yeah. Some people's challenge is that there is no challenge.
I'll have that next lifetime. Or maybe it's a challenge in itself.
Well, I mean, you know, you can say that, but you know, I mean, their challenge to them, it's a challenge. You know, there's the, you know, we come with nothing and we leave with nothing. So why work up a sweat in between? And so they disengage from themselves. They're not really focused on making uh, on the mundane aspects of life, you know, that it's like they don't really engage because there's nothing really juicy, you know. A relationship, a relationship needs, um, if it's all easy, then there's no growth, and if it's all hard, then there can be, sometimes there's not much love. I'm just calling it that. And so you want a little bit of both. You want it to be, you want some easy compliments between you and your partner, and then you want a little bit of challenges, because that's how you're going to grow and you're going to change. And so that the middle path is always the better path. And so the person with no challenges, it for the person who has a lot of challenges will feel that's the easy path. But the person who has the no challenges, it's not such an easy path. It's easy compared with other things, but comparison is a no-win situation.
Okay, yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you. And I think probably the last question. So if the astrology charts aren't fixed, let me ask you this. How do you work with your clients, or what kind of work do you do with your clients?
So I offer life readings. I use 3 different modalities to give them 3 different perspectives. The Enneagram of personality helps them to see their core triggers. There's a personality story at our core, and that we live out of that, and it doesn't change, but we can live on the higher side of it. The astrology gives us our strengths and weaknesses, and the astrology is fixed, but we are not stuck in that astrology. It's a opportunity to where you you know, you're 4 years old and your mom says you can't cross the street, and then you become 8 and you can cross the street. So your life is not fixed, you know. And it may be that, you know, at 16 or 18 you can drive the car, so you're even less stuck in that one place that you might have felt at 4 years old. And so the third modality is the wheel of totality. These are the blind spots. It's the empty houses that would have no planets. It's the blind spots. It's the places of ignorance. And so that we don't normally start working on until we're 50, because in 20s and 30s we're not really interested in working on our deficiencies. We're interested in building up our ego. And in our 40s we realize that doesn't work. When we've had the same bad relationship, and we've had the same bad boss, and we have to realize that it may be us, not them. And so then we start looking at our deficiencies. And so then at the end of the reading, I like to say, the client says, well, okay, great, now what do I do with this? And so I have the 4 doorways to conscious living. That's the first one is to learn to observe. And so we take all this information and we just observe. We observe that we're shy. We observe that we're shy in certain situations. We observe that people who are aggressive make us want to hide or make us feel insecure. And then the second doorway is to let go and release what doesn't serve us. So we spend a lot of time in this letting go and releasing what doesn't serve us. Then the third doorway is to love ourselves, and the fourth is to live in the moment. So when we're living in the moment, then we love ourselves, because we can't be in the moment without loving ourselves. Those two are conjoined. And so how do we love ourselves is to let go and release what doesn't serve us. And how do we know what to let go and release? Is we just keep observing. And so it's a process of observing rather than berating ourselves for what we do or don't do. It's observing that what we're doing, with the hope that we're then going to let go of behavior, or let go of that thinking, and have it and observe how other people handle it, and learn from them. You know, with 50 years of sitting with teachers, the spiritual teachers myself, I find that quite often that what they say isn't particularly new, but what is new is how they behave. And so we learn from teachers, we learn from people, we learn from society. Why do we, well, we sit in a restaurant and watch people watching is we're you know, we're watching because we're gossiping on one side, but on the other side we're learning how people act. We're watching how people act and don't act, and how they look, and how they're secure and within themselves, and then we take that on.
Mm.
We take little parts of that on. We become, you know, I read a book here and I read a book there, and then I say, you ask me a question and I answer this, and I realize, oh, I have become, I don't even remember where I got these things. They synthesize inside and they become me, and I didn't necessarily even realize it.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, that's so true.
So does that answer your question? And
It
so
does
the
answer my
process is,
question.
the process is, this is really important. The process is to give people power back. I commented on this yesterday to somebody, and it didn't really, I understand what I was saying more now than I did then, but the point is that as we just the point just left, but the idea is that we grow and we change, and so I want to empower people, and that the idea is that what a lot of people do, I was being negative towards astrology and negative towards some of these arts, and I'm not negative towards them, I'm negative towards the way that they're used, because they don't empower people, because people are not empowering people. They are keeping their knowledge, and they are making other ways, like the astrologers thought of, you know, you've got asteroids and you've got outer planets and you've got transits and you've got progressions, and all of those things hold us in a spot because we don't know them, and so we have to ask this astrologer, well, what about that? And I don't think they're particularly important. They're not anything that I personally deal with. 50 years into astrology, what I've come to realize is that most of it is noise, and what I'm only interested in is the placement of the planets at birth and the strength of those placements in the planets at birth. Because I like to say, if your neighbor makes noise and it bothers you, whose fault is that? I like to ask this question. So whose fault is it?
It's your neighbor's fault.
No, it's not your neighbor's fault at first, but eventually it's your own fault, because you're letting that neighbor bother you. And that's the idea of transits, that not transits, but aspects, that the planet is 90 degrees away. It's only a problem because of the planet's security. It isn't about the aspect. That we can have an aspect, we can have a neighbor and they make noise and you say, oh, isn't that wonderful? They're you know, they're lawn mowing their lawn, isn't that wonderful? You know, rather than, oh my God, they're making noise and bothering me. You know, you're giving your power away. If they're bothering you, it's because of you, it's not because of them. And so I take this back to all of the modalities where it's not about what I want to do, is I want to teach people. You know, it's that old, if you give them fish, then they eat for a day, but if you teach them to fish, then they eat for a lifetime. So I'd rather teach people to eat for a lifetime by empowering them that these challenges, these are the challenges. These are the challenges, but you can overcome them. And it's a step-by-step process, and you're going to be completely different tomorrow, but you're also going to be completely different. Take a look at yourself in 6 months and then a year and 2 years and see how much you've changed.
Yes. Well, I love that the essence of what you're talking about actually is empowering. That's, well, it's the overall work that I do. The tagline of what I do is empowering you to know what you know. So it's, yeah, I love the way that you talk about that. Yeah,
that's probably why we're here together.
yes, yes, yes. Like, you don't seem the man who is afraid of, of public speaking. It's like, so your tools and your processes and your empowerment are working. It's like you're proof of that by the way that you're showing up and choosing to live your life. So I thank you for that. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing everything you've shared. And can I ask you, we'll put in the show notes your how people can find you. Can you just tell us where they can find you too, so we have that spoken here on the audio?
Sure. So that on my website, indrarinzler.com, you can write me at indrarinzler@gmail.com. I like to give an offer to the listeners if they're interested. It's not about shyness. But if they're interested, I'll send you your Vedic astrology chart for free. I need 3 pieces of information: your date, date of birth, your time of birth, and the place of birth. And I like, if it's fun too, if you tell me where you're living, just to see where people come from. And I also offer the free Enneagram test so that you can figure out your number. It doesn't work for everybody, but most people can get it. It's a 5 or 10 minute test. I'll be happy to send that for free. So just email me those requests. That's the place to find me. I offer these life readings. I also do location astrology if you're wanting to know about why you feel happier or unhappier, less happy where you're at, or where you want to travel or whatever. I do location astrology if people are interested in that too.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. And we'll put that as well in writing in the show notes. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me, Indra.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Fiona. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I'm so grateful for you. It would be great if you could subscribe, great if you could leave a review wherever you're listening. And if you'd like some quick, simple tips to overcome shyness wherever you are, please go to my website, fionacutts.com, where you can download my free product, 5 Steps to Overcoming Shyness Wherever You Are. Thank you again, and see you next time.